Hey everybody, welcome to the Blue Chip Podcast by fans for fans. This is your host Cody Potter. How y'all doing? I appreciate you guys checking in for today. We're going to do a little bit of an episode on some free agent additions. Man, I'm more of a draft guy myself, but I do a lot of scouting. But free agency is important, especially this year for this team. It's a Commanders-based podcast, but if you are interactive. If you check out the pod, I'm going to talk about other teams, especially when it comes to the draft, things like that, free agency, ranked teams, and just things like that. I watched a ton of college football. So if you guys are interactive, you like other teams, ask me a question on YouTube and things like that. I can talk about your team more. And again, I appreciate anybody that likes, comments, and anything you do, man. I'd rather be a little bit more informative. But to get into the show, so Ian Rappaport did a little report on on the Commanders going into the offseason, man. I'm about to play that. I'll play the audio for you. One of the biggest things for me was, this offseason, man, with Jaden Daniels' rookie deal, man, a lot of teams get, they go all in, especially when the quarterback does hit. They want to put the weapons around him. They want to be, very, very active. Last offseason, you could just tell with the amount of trades that went on in the NFL last year that Adam Peters was not trying to hitch his wagon. A lot of the guys that did get paid big money, they didn't really produce this year. You see the guys that had the biggest impact over last offseason, a lot of them were trades. One of the trades was here. Another impactful player for this team was another trade in Deebo Samuel. Fans might be a little bit upset about the dead money and things like that, but sometimes teams work deals. Sometimes you get, you help a team out in the front end. They help you out with draft, moving up in the draft and things like that. Sometimes you just kind of clears each other out when you have a good working relationship. So that discusses the Deebo one, the Laramie Tunsil one. That's going to be a big contract for this team this year. But so again, that's going to be even more big money that's going to be spent. It's well-deserved for Laramie Tunsil. We need him to keep Jaden Daniels healthy. And ultimately, this is about building the best team around Jaden Daniels. So, I'm going to let Ian say what he says.
And now you have where the Commanders are this year. And they still have a lot of cap space. They're coming off a really disappointing season. A lot of the players that used to build 2 years ago when they made the run to the NFC title game have, no offense to them, gotten a little older. It happens to all of us. It even happens to me and you, Mike. You get a little older and someone says, indeed, it's time to maybe turn the page. Don't turn the page on us. But for the Washington Commanders, I wonder how active an offseason they have. Adam Peters has been aggressive. He has made trades, made a couple of big ones last offseason. It is an essential, important year for Washington. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some fireworks here, just knowing how important it is, how much space they have, and
So that's the biggest thing, man. I see this team being very, very active in free agency. It's just it's the only way this team is going to really supplement their roster to get enough players around, Jaden Daniels and things like that. I mean, whether it's wide receiver, whether it's safety, corner, edge is definitely going to be a position that I expect this team to prioritize moving forward. Whether it's through the draft, you could see safety, you could see corner, you could see defender. I think running back's a position that David Blau kind of implemented that we're going to be probably more in play and add some more talent to the roster. Again, whether through the draft. You hit really good last year on Bill. Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt in the 7th round had 8 touchdowns, 800-some yards. Only really played half of the season as far as, he was available all games. But, they used Chris Rodriguez. They kind of went with the hot hand last year under Cliff. I think going to the scheme that they're going to move towards, it's going to be even more beneficial for the running back. I also think the running back impact needs to be much higher for this team. This team wants to have a run game around Jaden Daniels. They want to be able to throw the ball. Jaden Daniels' best asset is his play from the pocket and outside of the pocket when he is throwing the ball down the field. Yes, he can gash you with the legs, but you do not want the team's offensive game plan to be built around his legs. I think that was the biggest issue with Cliff Kingsbury. There's numbers to support it. 17 plays last year from under center were in the pass game. That's just limiting your offense. For all the great things that Cliff did year one, dropping back 42 times from under center it's not going to be the best way to highlight your run game. It's also not going to be the best way, it's predictable and things like that. Running out of the gun and trying to make it look different, yes, that helps when you're running out of the gun to kind of open it up from the pass when you're throwing it that often from the shotgun or the pistol. But it shows over time. The West Coast offense is it's very forgiving for quarterbacks that are smart enough to learn the terminology and able to, use their legs and, to extend the play and move and bootleg out of the pocket and things like that on play action. So again, I think that's going to be something that's very, very critical going forward with this offense. It's just another element that's going to make it even more harder to defend Jaden Daniels. And again, Jaden Daniels' best asset is how he manages it from the pocket. It is him throwing the ball down the field. We have to give him more weapons. I think that's going to come in free agency. It could come from the draft. I've discussed the Brandon Ayuk thing, but I've also come to terms with the fact that I think he's just going to end up being here. Jaden, Adam Peters has a history with Brandon Ayuk, for the distraction and the things. I've never seen anything happen like that in San Francisco. But, read the tea leaves. If your quarterback wants him, your team needs to get better at the position. It just seems like there's so much smoke, there's so much fire. It's been going on for more than just this past season and this offseason. It's just continuous ever since Jaden Daniels has been drafted here. I've never seen a player want to come here so bad. But when I watch Jaden Daniels on tape and I watch what he has, and if I think about trying to maximize his skill set, this is one more addition we need to do. It has to be an impact outside of Terry McLaurin. As David Blau said, trying to manufacture 10 touches a game for Terry McLaurin, that's a great idea. That's what you want to do. He's a premier player in this league. He might not be the Justin Jeffersons, but the good teams, and that's what they do. They get their guy the ball that much. It also helps you get the guy the ball that much when you have another guy across from him and you have good tight end play. We've had that with Zach Ertz, but it wasn't consistent enough. He was just older. Certain elements of his game were no longer there. That said, there's a guy at Tennessee that I really, really like, Miles Klitschman. He probably goes round 3 to round 5, somewhere in that range. He reminds me of Chris Cooley on tape, but with bigger size. He has that Sam Laporta kind of build. He can block in line. He's a really good player, and he's just a guy that I really hope we focus on going towards the draft. That said, again, I'm going to be more free agency based on this episode because of what Ian Rappaport was saying. So there's a couple players that I do want to discuss. It's going to be a pretty telling offseason what the direction is for this team, and it's got to be to clean up the defense. So one guy that I haven't talked about a lot is this player right here, and this is a guy that I have graded very, very highly, whether it was through the draft process or whether it's through watching him continue to ascend in his career with Chicago. Jaquan Brisker, the safety. This is the type of player that this defense needs. He's very, very smart. He's very, very physical. He can play. He can cover tight ends. He's got a playmaking gene to him. He's the type of player that has the age, the speed, everything that AP was looking to say he wanted to build this offseason. This would probably be my priority free agent signing for this team. I like Reek Woolen. I really, really loved his skill set coming out of UTSA. That's another guy I would look to, spend some money at. The contract, he's going to get paid. Cornerbacks aren't typically that tall. They move that well. There are some penalties and things that come with him. But Jaquan Brisker would be the number one player for me in free agency for this team when I think about scheme fit. That probably takes you out of the Caleb Downs market. But then again, maybe doesn't it? Because honestly, if you have two pieces that could essentially, do a snap or two over the top, depending on what you're trying to do and what kind of look you're trying to give. If you're bringing down a safety, the other one can cover quick, because ideally, if you're blitzing a safety off the edge, you want quick pressure. So the other safety isn't playing off as high. He's just, navigating that line because the play is designed to be, gotten rid of before then. And again, so, Jaquan Brisker is a guy, and would he work with Caleb Downs? He very much could. I don't think that's maximizing either of their skill set, putting them on the back. And I think there's a chance that Quan Martin ends up moving up and maybe even switching the nickel role, on and off with Mikey Samerstill, who could work outside. He could come play in the nickel. I have been a proponent for making Mikey Samerstill find his permanent spot on this team. That doesn't mean you can't be scheme diverse with him in packages and things like that and still use him inside. That's what you want to do. But whether he's going to be an inside guy or an outside guy, the other facet of the game when you line him up outside, if he's going to be the inside guy, it just needs to be schematical for that type of situation, downs and distances and things like that. Otherwise, he needs to stay inside predominantly, and that's what I'm talking about. So that's where you could get the situation of Mikey playing outside and then moving Quan to the nickel and then kind of switching it up after there, because Quan has played outside corner and things like that at Illinois when he came out. Durante Jones had brought it up about his versatility. Is he a corner? Is he a box safety? Is he a over-the-top safety? Things like that. Maybe we haven't seen the best of Quan Martin's play. I think you added in Jaquan Brisker, a very, very good communicating safety. Very smart physical safety. Has everything you want on tape, man. He's going to get paid. But again, the safety market, top paid safety in the league is not getting paid. You know what a top flight wide receiver gets paid in the league. I don't think he's even going to reset the market. He's not going to hit the contract numbers of the Kyle Hamiltons of the world. But Jaquan Brisker is a really good player, and it's a player that I would prioritize signing this offseason. Again, that's just my personal opinion on the matter, but it's a guy that I wanted to highlight for this. I'm going to do plenty of shows about this moving forward, about what I think about certain schematical fits and things like that. The rest of this month leading up to free agency, we're going to cover this team a lot in free agency, cover our division and things like that. I think, George Pickens probably gets franchise tagged by the Cowboys. That's what they do. I don't see, a guy like that hitting the market. If he could, would you be interested in signing him? Of course, you got to be, you got to do your homework for all the good players in the league. George Pickens is a very exciting player in the league. He's the type of player that I think maybe fits this locker room perfectly. I don't know. That said, he's a guy that I really, really do like, and I really, really highlight a lot. There's other guys in this class, and again, a lot of this is going to be focused on defense. And I've talked about Brandon Ayuk and the things that he would offer on offense. To Terry McLaurin. I've also brought it up, about Alec Pierce and how I think the fit is with Alec Pierce, moving forward. I like that element with Terry McLaurin. Would I spend the money on Alec Pierce? Yes, I would do it. I just think that Alec Pierce is going to be one of those popular free agents this offseason where somebody's probably going to overpay him. And that's perfectly fine. I think when you get that type of average reception yards for consecutive seasons, you're worthy of that money. Like I said, I really, really like the impact that he's had on the team. And Alec Pierce would be great here. I just don't know if we get into the all-out bid, in that type of market, even though the player is clearly worth it. He really is a good player. And then another player that I've really, really been high on this offseason that I think even gives you a little bit more versatility, in the linebacker room is Quay Walker. So again, if you can't tell the common theme for my offseason, talking about Tyreek Woolen, talking about Jaquan Brisker, Quay Walker, the linebacker for the Green Bay Packers, is somebody that I really, really do like. He's somebody that I think is a really, really good player in this league. Is he the best coverage linebacker? No, but for down and distance and for things like that, things that this team needs to really, really be on top of moving forward, I think, I put the wrong highlight on. Sorry, guys. Anyway, went Malik Willis and did not go Quay Walker. Sorry, I was trying to do this, getting a little bit better at this technology. One day I will. I'm not the best with computers, so sorry. Malik Willis, you get your shine. He is going to get paid in free agency. Probably even gets an opportunity to be a starter going into camp this year. The way that he's looked when he's come on the field for Jordan Love with the Green Bay Packers, I'll give him that prop. See, I can talk other teams other than Washington Commanders, but again, Quay Walker, Jaquan Brisker, these are just guys that I really, really like. They're guys that I'm really, really interested in, moving forward for this team. I think they're really, really good players. And then, the running back room, of course, going in before the playoffs, before the Super Bowl, I would have told you Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is about to get paid. Would I mind paying him? No, I really wouldn't. I think, the way that he's been used would be a great way to use him here, in a backfield with, a Bill Ja'Cory Cross-Gamera. I think Kenneth Walker is going to get the bag probably a little bit more than I'd want to, get into the market for a running back. The player that I would get in that type of, market for a running back as far as paying the money would be Breece Hall, but I don't think there's any way that Breece Hall becomes available. He's just a really, really good player, and I don't think that it I don't think he even hits the market. The Jets do Jets things, and that's just what it is. They're going to franchise him even though they don't even know how to use him properly. They showed this past year that they can't use him properly, and I mean they're going to bring him back with the same staff. Again, we've talked about the Jets, before. I talked about them in their draft direction and things like that. It makes it really, really hard to translate what the Jets are going to do moving forward. But Quay Walker is a guy that I feel like a big issue with this team has had is, playing the line, tackling the run last year on the edges. Quay Walker is definitely a guy that can get sideline to sideline. He's not your best coverage ability guy, but again, he definitely dominates, the first and second down and the rundowns and things like that. And he brings a physical element to your team. So you start adding the type of characters that I'm trying to say, the Quay Walker, the Jaquan Briskers of the world, Tariq Woolen. These are all big, physical, fast guys. Those are the type of guys you want to add to your defense. I'm not saying when you sign these guys, you're not going to look to draft their replacement in the next 2 or 3 years. In 2 or 3 years, you're going to probably draft that cornerback to replace Reek, moving forward. But for right now, putting the money at the cornerback position, and then when Jaden Daniels signs his contract and you have bigger cap figures and you got to start letting go of some of these contracts, Reek Woolen will be a guy that you would draft to replace. And Quay Walker, hopefully you would have drafted a linebacker by then, whether it's Jordan McGee taking over and things like that. And maybe you draft a linebacker in this class to develop. Maybe it's a Boucher, the linebacker out of Oregon that I really, really like. It could be a Jacob Rodriguez that might take a little bit of time to get on the field. And then when he does get on the field due to injury or something like that, he just doesn't come off the field because he's so instinctual. Or it could be a Sonny Styles, a guy that you're going to start day one, and then you just have Frankie Louvu and Jordan McGee and, things like that. I think you'd have to be a little bit more certain that that's the direction you want to go, because then you have 4 linebackers that are all more than capable of playing. Maybe you even look to trade one at that point. But I think Frankie Louvu is going to get used and, featured in a lot of exotic ways on this team. Probably even lined up in the nickel some, just as a look. I'm not saying he's going to play the nickel. It would obviously be dropping into a zone or something like that where he's not actually covering a wide receiver, of course, or he's just out there looking like that as exotic, and then he's coming on a blitz on the edge at a late rush. So again, there's a lot of things going forward, but to fix this defense and maximize this team moving forward, you need to be able to create situations to get the ball back. Jaquan Brisker is a guy that can get hands on football. He can make some turnover-worthy plays. That's the type of attitude you want. Tariq Woolen, his rookie year, 6 interceptions. He's had interceptions in each of his years in his career. He's played through some injuries and things like that. He's a guy that I really, really like. He gives you a physical cornerback outside of Trey Amos. I know that, Tyree Woolen's going to tackle and things like that. Him, that would allow Mikey Sanders still to move inside, and then you have some flex, packages that you can work with Quan Martin that I've already discussed. So again, it's just looking forward for this offseason, figuring out how to best utilize the talent around on this team that you have. I expect, Durante Jones and guys to get it. I'm probably going to do on my next show when I talk free agency, I'm going to focus a little bit more up front on the edges and on the D-line, maybe even incorporate some of the draft prospects that I really, really like throughout mock drafts that I've been doing. There's going to, like I said, there's going to be value in this draft, whether it's late round or something like that. You're going to get a really, really good defender at all 3 levels. It's just that type of draft, and then who knows, this is going to be the type of draft where you draft a 6th-round safety or a 6th-round linebacker or something, the next thing you know, 2 years from then he's starting on your team playing plus-level football, and that's what you really, really want out of a draft class, and especially on the defensive side of the ball. It's there for us. That's why I would expect anything that this team does offensively, I think defensively is going to be the focus of the draft. Round 1, you do go best player available. So if this team did fall in love with a wide receiver or something like that long-term, and insurance policy for if Brandon Ayuk can't get it together, again, it's not marrying yourself to Brandon Ayuk or, allowing Brandon Ayuk to be the reason that you put yourself in a Noah Brown situation where last year, Noah Brown, we all know the injury history and things like that. You're taking a big chance on Brandon Ayuk. So if there is a wide receiver that your team likes there in the round 1 and the grades are grading, just because it isn't me, I like Omar Cooper Jr. and Denzel Boston. Those are my 2 favorite in this class. I do love Mekhi Lemon. I think Mekhi Lemon is a very, very deadly slot type wide receiver. I feel like we have those type of guys, but again, the motto in the draft is never let a good player stop you from drafting a great player, but you're going to pretty much limit 2 players that you've drafted in your last 2 draft classes. That, the asset you gave up for them was pretty high, but again, a first-round pick in Mekhi Lemon, you're going to put that guy on the field. And honestly, I say that because Mekhi Lemon would earn his roster spot. Him and Terry McLaurin would be really, really nasty together. Is Jalen Lane going to outproduce Mekhi Lemon? I don't think he's that player. He hasn't shown any of that yet. I think Jalen Lane has a bright future in this league, especially deep and over, playing the seam routes from the slot. That drafting Mekhi Lemon doesn't mean that you can't still use those type of packages and things like that, but this is about getting better and having the versatility to be able to create these type of matchups and packages. So again, Brandon Ayuk, Micaiah Lemon, Denzel Boston would be an amazing player, amazing pick to, kind of match up, especially if you were able to move down in round one. If you were able to move down in round one for this team, you take yourself out of the Caleb Downs market, but maybe Caleb Downs goes to the Giants. You just don't know. Two players I would not pick off of besides Caleb Downs are, David Bailey and Reuben Bain Jr., but they might not even be there. And then maybe you don't have the conviction about Orville Reese if a couple of the tackles go. So again, we don't know how this draft is going to fall yet. We haven't seen the combine, people test out of the gym. That does always have an impact on the draft. We've seen the Walkers of Jacksonville get drafted number 1 overall, even over Aiden Hutchinson, who had better tape. So again, in the draft world, we always see this type of thing happen. So again, we're going to see how this offseason plays out. Right now, it's a little bit easier to focus on the free agency additions. So again, that's what my pods are going to be about. But again, if you guys are informative and you guys want me to, if you comment on my videos, say you're, a Dolphins fan, whatever, if, you want me to name off a couple names that I think would be very, very good for them to be in the market for free agency. I can discuss your team, the direction your team's probably looking to go, the things that I would expect from your offseason. Again, I'll comment. If you comment on it, I will be interactive with you on YouTube with it in the comment section. And if you give me something to talk about, I will definitely talk about your team and shout it out. So again, I appreciate you guys for checking out the Blue Chip Podcast by fans for fans. This is your host, Cody Potter. Have a blessed week. Out.